One of the great privileges of being a sponsored mountain biker is getting the luxury of having a wide range of bikes. I have a bike for just about everything, and that's what's awesome about Marin bikes is they make a bike I can do just about every style of riding on. I'm going to go through each bike and show you footage of me ripping down a trail on it, talking about it. First up is the Alcatraz. This is my dirt jump bike, and what I love about this bike is it's kind of like a lot of the dirt jump bikes I've tried over the last few years. If you took one little good thing from each of one of those and combined them all into one. And I really think that's what Matt Jones was trying to do when he designed this bike. He knows what he's doing. He had a lot of knowledge that he took and gave to Marin. For example, it reminds me of my old Specialized P3 back in 2013. If you took the top tube, which was a little too long for me because I'm only 5'6", and you shortened it up just a tiny bit, it has a nice short rear end, a nice deep head angle, and it's just a dialed dirt jump bike. It feels so good. The angle that it's at, like the way, I think it must be the way the seat tube sits, it feels like the top tube's not too long, but I'm never kind of crunched forward on the front end. I feel like I have lots of room to move, which makes doing spin tricks really good. But at the same time though, wheelbase is nice and short, so tricks like tail whips come around really easily and really nice. And it's honestly my favorite dirt jump bike I've ever owned. I'm really stoked to be running the Alcatraz, and whenever I get a chance to go out and ride it, I'm just fired up. Next up is my other hardtail, and that is the San Quentin. This thing is sweet. It's just like an aggressive hardtail that's designed for shredding down a mountain just like any other trail bike would, but with no rear suspension. To make up for it being stiff in the back and having no rear shock, I noticed they slacked out the head tube angle a bit. It's quite long for the sizing, so if you're normally a medium, you might want to size down to a small. I took the small because I'm normally a small, and it was a really big small, which I don't mind. So if that's your preference to have a longer bike and a more stable bike, you might want to stay to your true size because it is quite fun having that shred sled feel where you're just like on some big long ride, yet it does whip around pretty easily. It's still quite nimble, and I like the fact that I have this like nimble yet stable bike that's really fun to pop around and boost around on. My next bike is the Hawk Hill. What I love about this bike is the way Marin has approached it. It's a very simple suspension design, yet made to be a lot of fun. It only has 120 mils of travel in the rear, so you're not getting a lot of suspension there, and it's not going to exactly be designed for all those big hits. But if you're just going out for like a more mellow trail ride or just your average flow trail in your network, this thing is insane. It's so much fun. It's got a fairly short rear end. I think it's only like a 425 mil chainstay. Really nice reach on it. I feel like it's a little shorter fit than some of their other frames. So just a blast to ride. Like, I have so much fun on this thing. And what I really like about it is the way that Marin has taken this bike and put it on the market. They've taken a simple design, made it a lot of fun to ride, and then they've spec'd it so it's very affordable. I'm running the Hawk Hill 3, which is their higher end spec of the 3, but it's not really that stock at all. Mine has a full XT kit for everything from brakes to drivetrain and everything, and then I'm running SR Sun Tour suspension, P&W components, and then Weir 1 carbon wheels. I'm loving the build. This bike has been just a blast all year. Finally, I have my number one bike that I ride for just about everything, and that is the Mount Vision. I get a lot of funny comments about the Mount Vision. People just seem to think it's ugly or they don't like the look of it. That's a very subjective, I guess, point of view. Some people love it. I mean, I personally think the more I look at the bike, the more I fall in love with it because my brain automatically goes to, I know what it feels like to ride this thing, and it's probably the most fun bike I've ever owned. The suspension design is really cool because it's really high traction, and that is kind of the main selling point of it. Whether you're climbing or descending, it wants to stick to the ground, and it wants to get over that technical stuff like nothing. It's pretty crazy. Like, there's some technical climbing that I could have never done in the past on some of my older bikes, and as soon as I got on the Mount Vision, it just became more doable and it became more reachable. I've also become a stronger climber this year because I've done a lot more of it. But I feel like the Mount Vision was really confidence inspiring in that regard. In addition to that, I also find that going downhill and just palming down steep, gnarly stuff is such a breeze with that suspension platform. because it wants to stick to the ground. It wants to make the technical, chunky, gnarly stuff as smooth as butter. And that makes it a lot more stable than you would expect, considering the chainstays are only 420 millimeters long. That's really short. Most trail bikes are like 430, around 435. So this is quite a bit shorter, up to 15 mils shorter than a lot of enduro bikes at 150 mil travel in the rear like this one that are a similar setup. What that means is the bike's going to manual way easier, and usually the compromise for that is a less stable bike. But with this suspension platform, that's not a compromise at all. The bike's completely stable, completely fast, just bombs through stuff. My only beef with the design that I have is that it's not quite as poppy and nimble on real steep jumps as it should be. However, most mountain bikers aren't riding that kind of setup. I would say like 99% of people wouldn't be riding jumps like that anyways on a bike like this. And if you are, you can just do a few different tweaks to your suspension.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll play at the low speed compression so I got a faster rebound overall, and then I'll just pump up the air and I'll make it really stiff. When I'm riding steep stuff anyways, especially dirt jump style trails, I tend to pump up the suspension as stiff as possible and make it feel like a slacked out dirt jump bike.
Oh, that was sick.
Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for some action for Mexico because I'm heading down to Oaxaca next week.